Hi there! Welcome back to the Rare Book Views channel, where I talk about how much I love books and collecting and reading and bookstores and all the book things. If you love book things, please consider subscribing or drop me a note about what you love reading. I really love hearing from everybody. It makes my day. Thank you to everybody who's done that already. It has been incredible how much people have been supportive and kind about my reading habits. I'm obviously a very big reader, and I'm also a runner, and I'm going to talk to you today about my favorite books about running, and I'm kind of excited about it. I only have one rare book example, but it's pretty great. I have this book, The Marathoners by Hal Higdon. Hal Higdon is a very cool guy who's had an amazing running career and now has this fascinating online platform where he does free training plans for a lot of the big distances, and he has social media presence. And I found this book, which I believe is a first edition. It says copyright 1980 on the copyright page right here. And I looked it up, and I think that does make it a bona fide first. And I had an occasion to send him an email. He was speaking at a local event, and I wanted to see if he would maybe sign it. And one thing led to another, yada yada. And he actually did end up signing my book, and it's super cool. And you can see this is a recycled book. There is a local charity that takes in homeless books that need a new home, and they give them out for free. And I actually found this there, and then I emailed with Hal Higdon, and he actually signed my book for me, which is really cool. This is obviously, and it's got these cool, it's a cool vintage book about marathoning. If you are a marathoner, or you know a marathoner, this is a great book as a gift for so many reasons. Vintage books about running are wild, but this one in particular has a couple cool features. I think that when I ran a full marathon, actually didn't know this, but there's a great history recounting in here about how the marathon distance, the 26.2 miles or number of yards, was set at I believe the 1980 London Olympics, because they wanted the race to start at Windsor or one of the castles. I don't know, right? I'm an American. And they wanted it to finish at Olympic Stadium, and it was not a nice round number that they had been using for the marathon. I think the marathon previously was 25 miles, because nice round number. And the distance from that castle to the Olympic Stadium at the time was 26.2 miles. So that is the distance they just kept using. They just decided that this year, I guess that's it. That's the distance. And that is the distance that we all kill ourselves. We don't kill each other, to run that distance. And it's just an arbitrary distance that has to do where landmarks are in England. And then when you think about the half marathon, which is my current favorite distance, is just half of this other arbitrary distance. It's kind of mind-boggling. The other really funny thing in this book, because it's 1980, Hal Higdon talks about how running is such a great sport and you don't really need expensive equipment, and that you can get a pair of shoes for $30. Most of the top marathoners are sought after by shoe companies. Good running shoes cost $30 or more. Anywho's, this is a fantastic book, and it would be a good gift or a fun thing to have in your collection if you are a runner. There's a lot of runner biographies and autobiographies. There are a couple that I think are standouts. This is my favorite by far. I got this at a book sale. I remember distinctly. I believe I paid $1 for this book. Marathon Woman by Katherine, Switzer. I did not know this story or the history of this before I read this book. And again, it will boggle the mind. Katherine Switzer, thank you so much. Thank you. This is a little thank you note from me for changing the world that I live in so that I can run long distances. In Katherine's day, women were not allowed to run long distances. And by long distances, I think I mean a mile or more. In competitive sports, women were not allowed to run very far at all. And it was because of a widely held belief that if women ran farther than half a mile or so, that their uteruses would just fall out of them. It wasn't really blatant. It wasn't just sexism. It was actually this belief that you just literally fall to pieces, that it would just destroy you. So Katherine was the first person who registered and ran the Boston Marathon. And her story about that is fascinating. But the other story about how she really purposely normalized women's long distance running and how that happened and how it wasn't really that long ago is amazing. It's also an incredibly well written book. It's very readable. You don't have to be a female long distance runner to enjoy it. You could just be a runner or perhaps a human just walking around find this interesting. It is amazing. For sports bio, I think it's really good. There's a lot of how she became a very competitive runner, what that was like. There's some interesting stuff about her personal history and her relationships and things like that. And her professional background is really interesting. There's some crazy other just random, I don't want to give you spoilers, but it's just some side go off onto this well-known part of history and things that she happened to be around for. Incredible book. Love it. Buy this book. There's another really great book that I do not have a hard copy of called Let Your Mind Run by Deena, Kastor. I love that book. I have it on my Kindle and I read it maybe once a year. It's her personal journey as a runner and sort of her biography and backstory, but it's also about how to become a positive thinker and how that is something that you have to practice and exercise and get good at, and she is just amazing. It is a really great book if you are injured to try to think positively about it. She's got some great sort of rehabbing things and missing things because she was injured and trying to be positive about it. I recommend it to all my running friends when they're injured and bummed about it. I gave it to a friend of mine when he was getting over surgery and couldn't run, and everyone agrees with me. It's a fantastic book. So if you have a runner in your life or you want to think positively, Let Your Mind Run by Deena, Kastor is amazing. This one is sort of bridges from biography into more general nonfiction. This is Bowerman and the Men of Oregon by Kenny Moore. This is the history of Bill Bowerman, who had an amazing running career, but also a lot of fascinating life story before he was an amazing runner and coach, and also how he was a coach at the University of Oregon and how that sort of empire of running happened and the role he played in that is really interesting. And he also was he was one of the founders, he was one of the co-founders of Nike. Mixed feelings on Nike these days, but the history of it and how it got started and why. And also, if you are a runner and you obsess about running shoes like I do, I have wide feet. A struggle is real. If you are interested in the shoe industry and why running shoes are some of the phenomenon things that happen, this is a great book. It is hefty. This will keep you going for a while. You won't have to buy another book for a minute. It is fantastic. I bought this used. I don't think I paid maybe $3 for this, and that is a bargain price. But you can pick this up used. I see them from time to time. Okay. Not necessarily running specific. Running with the Mind of Meditation by, cannot pronounce your name, I'm very sorry, Sakyong Mipham, I think, who is an actual Tibetan monk and a marathoner. And this book is fascinating. I loved it. It is mostly about meditation, but he is a runner. So he talks about sort of mindset when you're running, but also applies to life. So if you are a runner and you're interested in calming your mind down, especially on the treadmill, I find his suggestions very handy when you're running on the treadmill, which can feel a little hopeless. So keeping putting your mind in a separate zone and thinking sort of in a relaxed, non-stressed out way. Fantastic. Also, fascinating running stories. He's got some really cool marathon stories and other things going on in there. Very worth the read. And this is my last recommendation. The Runner's Guide to the Meaning of Life by Amby Burfoot. I really like Amby Burfoot. I think he is fantastic. He has a great voice as a writer. You can tell he's got a certain character and charisma that comes out in his writing. He's a very good writer. This is someone who, amazing runner, had an amazing career, won all the things, almost won all the things, and then became a journalist. He writes for a lot of really amazing, I was going to say magazines, but that's not, this is a book. So he writes for a lot of really high profile things in a lot of high profile venues. And he is a really great writer. This book is short. It's glossy. It's got some cool little sort of nuggets of information that are sorted out really well. It is kind of pocket sized. I think this would be a great gift book. I think this would be something that if you have a runner and you're looking for just a small gift or a stocking stuffer or something like that, this would be really great. I bought this used. I'm not completely sure if it's still in print, but the copyright date, I say that and I have no idea what the copyright date is, 2007. So it's been around for a bit, but I'm sure you could pick up a copy online or from your used book seller. And I think this is really fun. It's just like an easy read and kind of, not a big time commitment. So, and it's fun, it's positive. Like I said, he's a great writer. He's got some cool stuff to say and his thoughts are really nice. So if you are a runner, those are my suggestions. There has been lately just a glut of books that just came out. There's a new book by Des Linden, co-authored, I think, maybe another author. And Kara Goucher wrote a book that is turning a lot of heads and making people really think about the sport. And I think there's some other really cool books that have been coming out or about to come out or just came out about running. If you are a runner and a reader, please tell me what I should read next. I can't decide. There's so many cool stuff that just came out. I would love to know what really resonated with people or what they thought was really cool, and I will put them on my list. I hope there are some runners and some readers out there that have some new suggestions for your list. And thank you very much for watching, as always. Again, thank you for the comments and support, and happy reading.